Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're going to be doing a window blind conversion. I know, what the heck is a window blind conversion? Well, here's the story. My wife and I wanted a new set of blinds for a window in one of the rooms of our house, and we decided that we'd like wooden blinds, you know, those mini blinds, but we wanted them in wood. So I went to a local blind shop here in town, and I gave them the dimensions. It's not a crazy size window, it's not bizarre sizes or anything, but for 1 inch wide slats in wood, and crap wood at that, $263 plus tax. So after I asked the guy what he was smoking, I left the store and decided I could probably do this. And what I started with was a set of window blinds made of plastic. Well, here we have our plastic window blinds. You know, the kind, everybody has these in a window somewhere in their house. It's not an expensive set, and the slats are 1.5 inches wide. So I'm thinking, why not make duplicates of these slats, but out of wood? And I don't see why it wouldn't work, but we're going to try it. I'm just going to let you guys know this whole project is a bit of an experiment to begin with, but I'm pretty confident that it's going to work. The first thing that we need to establish is how many slats we need in order to get our height for our window. Well, the first thing I've done is I've hung this blind from the ceiling of my shop just with some bungee cords, and we're just going to drop the blind down so that we can get a count and a measurement. So, look at that. Now I got some privacy out here. Anyway, carrying on. I need 52 inches is the entire space for this window, top to bottom. So I want to measure from the top of this frame all the way down to where 52 inches is, and then just mark that slat X, put an X on it with a marker or something. These slats are going to be thrown away anyway, but we're going to measure down, mark where we need for 52, and then it's as simple as just counting the slats. Mark that number down. That's how many slats we're going to need to cut in order to make this blind into a wooden one. Well, that's our mark at 52, but you have to remember that at the bottom there is one slat that is the main slat or the base slat. So it's going to be one less than this, because this one that you just marked is actually going to be your base slat. So count the slats minus the one you marked. Well, you've determined how many slats you need, and for me it's 42, and that's going to yield me a 52 inch covering. The next thing you want to do is disassemble the blind. And in the bottom slat of these blinds, they've got this little plastic plug. I mean, you can just get a little slot screwdriver in there and hook them out. It doesn't take much to remove them. And once you get these pieces out, you're going to remove all the excess string and mounting kind of guts that are in there. So you can see here, they've just tucked in the little ends, and that's just the cap that holds it in place. So take that apart, and now what you want to do is there's a main string that goes right through these blinds, and that main string here is tied in a knot on the inside of this. You want to either undo that knot or you can cut it, because unless you're making the exact same size blind, you're not going to need it. These ones here, they're nice enough to tie it into a little bow for us so we can just pull it and release it. Now once you get that string out of there, you want to pull it out of all of your slots, and then your slats rather, just slide out of each of this kind of a ladder style rope. I'll show you what I'm talking about here as I pull this apart. There's your main string that goes through them. It just pulls out like that. And same with this one here. That just pulls out like that. And on this side. Now at this point you may want to tape these to the frame of your blinds, this top section here. You don't want to lose this string on the inside and then it's all buggered up on you. But from here it's as simple as taking your slats and just pulling them out. So remove all these slats from your blinds. Well, let me just show you what this ladder rope looks like that I was talking about. It looks like this. And each one of those rope ladder rungs holds one of the slats for the blinds. You probably already know that, but for those of you that don't, there's a little information as to how these blinds sit in place. The next thing that I want to do is I want to trim the frame of this blind. The problem is there's a 39.5-inch blind. I only need 39 inches. So I'm going to head over to the table saw and cut 1/4 of an inch off of each end. Now I have a saw stop, and cutting plastic with a table saw, there's no problem with that, but with a saw stop it can create static electricity, which in turn can trip your mechanism. So although it's not necessarily the most recommended practice, I will be disengaging the safety feature of the saw stop, and if you have one, you may want to take that precaution as well. Well, we've got the edges of that blind trimmed up to the size that we want now, and let me tell you, that fine-tooth crosscut blade really does a nice job at trimming that edge of the plastic nice and clean. You can, if you like, take some 220 grit sandpaper and just clean up around the edges if it needs it. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to choose our wood. And for this, because I have an abundance of it and my wife would like lighter colored slats, I'm going to be using poplar. So make sure you have a piece that's long enough. In my case, I need at least 39 inches. And we're going to take it over to the bandsaw and we're going to resaw some of this. We want 1/8 of an inch slats. So we're going to head over there, do some resaw, and then from there we're going to head to the thickness planer to get it down to our final thickness. And there we have all of our 1/8 stock milled. Now, truth be told, in the video of the resaw, you saw quite a wide section, and I was cutting 8 inches. Actually, it was just over 8 inches. It's a pretty rough go on the saw, so you can see here that I actually trimmed the board down just to make it a little easier on the tool, a little easier on the blade, a little easier on the motor. Now it's time to cut the slats. So what I'm going to do is set my ripping fence on the table saw to 1.5 inches, and I am going to rip the 42 slats that I need. Well, now that we've got our slats cut, Our next step is to square off one end and then cut them all to a length of, in my case, 39 inches. For you, it'll be, well, however wide your blind is. But for me, 39 inches. So square off the one end and trim them all to 39. And there we have all of our slats cut. I've got a few extras here just in case we screw things up. Now, what we've got is the original slat here, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but there are 3 holes here. One here, one here, and one here. That is for that string that we pulled out to go through. And for these particular ones, they're inset from one edge 3/16 of an inch to the center, and they're a 1/8 of an inch hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the center on one of these, and then I'm going to set up the fence on the drill press as well as a depth stop so that I can just go through and drill all of the ones in the center. Don't drill the ones on the sides just yet, just the one in the center. That's 3/16 of an inch into the center and 1/8 of an inch in diameter. Now that we've got all the center holes drilled, we need to drill these holes on the outside. But you just want to be careful. Don't measure from the edge of the slat in, because if you remember, I shortened these blinds. These are 39.5 inch blinds. I'm making a 39 inch blind. So if that was the case with you, that you shortened it as well, you need to measure center to center from the middle here out to that next hole. And by doing that, you can get your measurement as to where to put your stop block on your drill press, and then you should be able to set that up, drill the one side, and then flip the whole unit end to end and butt it up against your depth stop and drill your other hole. Just keep in mind here to make sure that you've got this edge of the slats against the fence. You don't want to end up with your holes on the wrong side. So just pay attention here and drill those holes at either end. We'll give each slat a light sanding after you get all the holes drilled, and then you want to start reassembling the blind. So it just is as simple as these slats slide in along this ladder, and you'll just, don't worry about that string that you taped up earlier. Just pull them through, get them within this ladder, each one lined up, and then once you get all these slats put back into place, then we'll move on to the next step. Well, it's coming along, and one thing that I found is that if you take your sandpaper and just take that crisp edge off of each slat, they slide into the ladder a lot easier. If you don't take that sharp edge off, they have a tendency to catch. So there you go, live and learn. Take the sharp edge off and they'll go a lot smoother into our ladder. As well, those holes that you drilled, they're going to take that string that we taped off up top here, and you want to make sure that those holes are to the back of the blind. Well, now that you've got all the slats in, that string that you taped up top, you want to untape it, pull it through, and feed it through every single one of the slats, both in the middle and the end positions. Well, now that we've got that done, what we need is a 1/2 inch thick piece of, in this case, poplar or whatever species you've used, and it's going to be the same length. It's going to be 39 inches long and a 1/2 inch thick. We've got 3 holes to drill with that, and they will mimic the exact same dimensions of the holes that we did previously, which is, of course, the center one, and then whatever you measured for your blinds out to those edge holes. However, instead of being 3/16 of an inch in from the ends, they are going to be drilled in the center of the 1.5 inch slat. So let's start off with the 1.5 inch by 1/2 inch thick by 39 inches wide. Long. 39 inches long. It's been a long day. Well, here we have our piece of stock, and we've marked these holes, as I said, in the center of the board as opposed to 3/16 of an inch in. We're just going to give them a little center punch, and what we're going to do as far as the drilling goes is on the one side of the board, which will be the bottom, we want to drill a 3/8 of an inch hole that's going to be 1/4 of an inch deep. And then from there, we're going to carry on through with a 1/8 hole. And you'll understand in just a bit how that's going to work, but what we're doing is we're mimicking these larger holes in the bottom of this base piece and mimicking these smaller holes here. So just to reiterate, 3/8 of an inch hole, 1/4 of an inch deep, so just halfway through the board, and then a 1/8 hole through. We're done drilling the holes. You can see the 1/8 through hole here, as well as our 3/8 1/4 inch deep hole. I think I'm going to take a round over bit to this and just soften these corners. It is quite a pronounced piece, and you don't want it looking too blocky. So round those corners off and then give the whole thing a good sanding. Once you've got the round over done and you're happy with the look of it, these 3/8 holes are on the bottom. So slide it into the last slat of your ladder and put your strings down through these holes. Once you have that piece in and the string is installed, we're going to tie a knot in the end of the string. I'm going to put a drop of CA glue on my knot, trim it up so that it's tight to that knot, and then pull all the excess up into that 3/8 of an inch hole. Once we get that done, what you want to do is cut off the excess rope ladder, I guess you'd call it. You're going to want to slit the middle and stuff all of that excess into this 3/8 hole that you've drilled. I'm going to use a 3/8 wood button to go in there, and I'm going to glue it in place to hold everything nice and tight in there. You just want to be sure at this point that you check your length of your blind before you cut any of this away, because once you cut it, you can't put it back. So let's go ahead here, slice this apart, cut this open. I don't think you need a video of it. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Anything that's left hanging once you cut off the excess is stuffed into that hole, and a wooden button goes in with a knot on the end of this string. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and see you. And there you have it. Wooden window blinds. Guys, this was a great little project. It was a lot of fun. The one little thing, or the few things left that you may want to do on it, is the valance is one of them. And you can see that right here. All I've done is with that 1/8 thick material, same material as the slats, I've duplicated the original valance, Of course, I had to shorten it due to the fact that I shortened the blind, but other than that, the dimensions would be the same as the factory valance, and it worked just great. As well, the rod, which you open and close the blinds with, I have gotten rid of that plastic one, and I have put in a dowel. And that, of course, goes with the whole wooden thing. And the final touch, and it's all in the little details here, is those silly little white plastic knobs here. I've turned my own out of the same species as the slats, making all of the plastic hardware, with the exception of the main brackets, gone and exchanged for wood. One thing you want to note here, guys, is I would call this production work. This is what I would call production work. It's repetitive work. It's the same things over and over, the same drillings, the same cuttings, everything's the same. And that repetitious work is the most dangerous work that you can do in the shop, because it's very easy to forget about your safety, or to just wander. Your mind wanders and you don't concentrate on what you're doing. So for your own safety, take plenty of breaks, guys. Don't go on so long that you're fatigued and you forget where your hands are. It's a good way to get injured. So, great little project. You can use whatever species you want. I stuck with the poplar. Guys, it was a lot of fun. And it sure as heck was not $263 plus tax. I can tell you that right now. Bottom line is, if this is something that interests you, give it a try. Give it a try. I mean, what do you have to lose? Guys, I want to thank you for joining me again this week, and I'm going to see you again next week with yet another woodworking video.